Today's case is about a 19-year-old girl from a small town in the United Kingdom, whose body was discovered in a state that is almost unimaginable. The young woman, named Emily Carter, had been missing from her home for a few days. When authorities finally found her, the scene was horrific. Her head was detached from her body, and the skin on her face had been stripped away. The sheer brutality of this crime shocked everyone, and people in her community were left in disbelief. Despite this, the local police initially classified it as a routine case, although the investigation was filled with contradictions and inconsistencies. So why did this happen, and what led to Emily's tragic fate? Let's dive deep into the case of Emily Carter. Emily lived in a modest household in the outskirts of Nottingham, England. She worked as a part-time teacher at a private nursery school in her town. Her family was middle class but struggling financially, and Emily had always been determined to support them. She had recently completed her A-levels and dreamed of becoming a nurse. To pursue this goal, on the 11th of August, after finishing work around 2 p.m., she visited a local private college to inquire about enrollment in a BSc nursing program. Emily believed that this small step could change not only her future but also ease the financial burden on her family. Little did she know, the day that started with hope would turn into a nightmare. Later that evening, at around 6 p.m., Emily's father, Jonathan Carter, received a missed call from her phone. Concerned, he called back immediately, but Emily did not answer. Over the next few hours, the family repeatedly tried to contact her, but there was no response. This was completely out of character for Emily, who was responsible and always kept her family informed. By this point, her family became extremely worried and feared that something terrible had happened. They went to the local police station to report her missing, but initially, the authorities refused to file a missing person report. The police argued that she had not been missing long enough and that she might have left voluntarily, possibly returning within a day or two. However, Emily's family knew this was unlikely. She was dedicated to her studies and deeply committed to helping her family. There was no reason for her to disappear without informing anyone. It took a lot of pressure from her family before the police finally agreed to open a missing person case. The investigation revealed that the nursery school's CCTV footage captured Emily leaving the premises at 1:58 p.m. She was then seen heading toward the private college where she intended to inquire about the nursing program. Upon reaching the college, she was seen speaking with administrative staff and asking detailed questions about the course, her future prospects, and admission procedures. Witnesses reported that Emily appeared calm and focused, completely unaware of the danger that was approaching. After leaving the college, there are limited verified sightings of Emily, which makes the timeline of her abduction crucial. Investigators suspect that someone had been observing her movements, waiting for the perfect opportunity. The complexity of this case is compounded by the fact that the brutality inflicted on her body suggests a level of premeditation and extreme malice that is rarely seen in ordinary criminal acts. Forensic experts emphasized that such injuries indicate the perpetrator had specific intentions, possibly aiming to erase her identity completely, making it almost impossible to recognize her. Emily's family and the local community have been left traumatized. The case has sparked outrage not only because of the unimaginable cruelty but also due to the initial negligence in taking the missing person report seriously. Social workers and local NGOs have called for a review of the police procedures, emphasizing the importance of taking every missing person case seriously, especially when young women are involved. As the investigation continues, authorities are focusing on gathering evidence from surrounding areas, analyzing digital footprints, and interviewing potential witnesses who may have seen Emily after leaving the college. The town remains in shock, and families are being urged to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity immediately. Emily Carter's case serves as a grim reminder of how vulnerable individuals can be, and how vital timely and thorough police action is in preventing such tragedies. The search for answers continues, and while the hope of justice cannot undo the horrors Emily endured, authorities are committed to identifying those responsible and ensuring that no other family has to experience such a loss. On the 13th of August, just 2 days after Emily Carter went missing, a local farmer discovered a lifeless body in a field on the outskirts of her town in Nottinghamshire. The condition of the body was horrifying and immediately raised suspicions among those who saw it. When authorities arrived and identified the body, it was confirmed beyond doubt that it was Emily. The gruesome nature of her death left the entire community in shock, and it quickly became clear to the townspeople that Emily's death was not natural or accidental. The locals who saw the body described extreme violence. Emily's throat had been slit, and there were signs that her face had been subjected to chemical burns, likely from acid or petrol. The brutality of the crime indicated a deliberate attempt not only to kill her but to erase her identity, leaving the family and community in utter horror. The news spread rapidly through the town, drawing large crowds to the scene, as residents tried to understand how such a young and promising life could end so violently. When the police and forensic teams examined the body, Emily's family made a firm and heartbreaking demand. They refused to take her body home or perform the funeral rites until the person or persons responsible for this atrocity were found and brought to justice. They wanted assurance that the authorities would fully investigate the crime and hold the culprits accountable. The family's grief was compounded by the shocking way some officers initially handled the case. Despite seeing the horrific state of Emily's body, the police reportedly told her parents that Emily had taken her own life, suggesting it was a suicide rather than acknowledging the clear signs of violent murder. This statement added to the family's frustration and anger. They felt not only the loss of their daughter but also the failure of the system that was supposed to protect her. The contradictions in the investigation raised serious questions about the police response. How could anyone conclude suicide when there was undeniable evidence of brutal physical assault and chemical burning? The family's insistence on justice became the driving force behind the public outcry, as villagers and concerned citizens began demanding transparency and accountability from the local authorities. Witnesses from the college where Emily had gone earlier that day were interrogated, but 3 men, reportedly intoxicated at the time, denied seeing Emily or interacting with her in any way. They claimed the college had closed at 1 p.m., directly contradicting CCTV footage showing Emily leaving at 1:58 p.m. These inconsistencies deepened the mystery and complicated the investigation, as every lead seemed to raise more questions than answers. The horrific circumstances of Emily's death and the initial mishandling of the case by authorities sent shockwaves through the small community. Families, local officials, and social workers all emphasized the urgency of properly investigating crimes against young women, noting that the initial dismissal of Emily's disappearance had cost crucial time. Emily's case highlighted not only the dangers she faced but also the systemic negligence that can allow such tragedies to occur. Even after the grim discovery, the investigation into Emily's murder remained ongoing. Authorities began examining potential suspects, tracing digital communications, and collecting forensic evidence from the field and her last known locations. Every detail, from the timing of her movements to the extreme violence inflicted, was scrutinized. The town remained on edge, grappling with the shock of what had happened, while Emily's family continued to demand that justice be served before they could mourn their daughter fully. The tragic story of Emily Carter serves as a chilling reminder of how vulnerable young individuals can be and the importance of swift, thorough responses from law enforcement when someone goes missing. The town's hope now rests on the authorities uncovering the truth and ensuring that those responsible face the full weight of the law. After Emily Carter's body was discovered, multiple theories began circulating about what could have happened to her. Some speculated that she might have ingested poison far from home, while others suggested possibilities like a self-inflicted death. Yet the horrifying evidence, her throat slit, possible animal attacks, her facial skin missing, and money found near the scene led locals to completely reject these explanations. Nothing about the official theories seemed to match the reality of what had been done to Emily. The residents of Nottinghamshire were outraged. Demonstrations and protests erupted across the town as people demanded truth and justice. Her family's statements made it clear from the very beginning that the police had shown extreme negligence, so much so that nobody in the community trusted official statements. First, the authorities had initially refused to file a missing person complaint or take swift action when Emily first disappeared. Even after her disappearance was reported, the police's response was slow and uncoordinated, allowing crucial time to pass without any investigation. When Emily's family eventually reached the college she had visited that day, the staff there initially refused to provide CCTV footage. Emily's father later stated that the college administrator finally gave them the footage, but upon reviewing it, they suspected that it had been tampered with. Such inconsistencies fueled anger and suspicion, making people feel that the case was being deliberately mishandled. 4 days, protests continued throughout Nottinghamshire, creating immense pressure on the local government to take the investigation seriously. In response to the public outcry, the district police chief was transferred, and 5 police officers involved in the case were suspended pending further investigation. The actions highlighted both the gravity of the situation and the public's frustration with systemic negligence. Forensic examinations of Emily's body have been conducted, but so far, there has been no confirmation regarding the exact circumstances of what happened to her or whether her body had been tampered with post-mortem. This ambiguity, sourced from police reports, has kept the community anxious and distrustful. Because of the scale of the public unrest, internet access in the area was temporarily suspended to prevent further escalation of tensions, and the case has now been transferred to the National Investigative Agency for a more thorough probe. Finally, after weeks of waiting, Emily's family conducted her funeral on the 21st of August. They did so with the hope that justice would eventually be served. The loss of their ambitious and determined daughter, who had so many dreams, has left an irreplaceable void. Emily's grandfather shared that he had promised to support her education even by selling his livestock if needed, underscoring the sacrifices the family had been willing to make for her future. The significance of Emily's case goes beyond the tragic murder of one young woman. It exposes deep flaws in law enforcement and the justice system, highlighting how negligence and inefficiency can allow injustice to persist. The community, still grieving, has rallied around Emily's family, with women visiting their home to offer support and classmates leaving flowers at her school gate in remembrance. Online, people are demanding accountability and justice, amplifying the message that Emily is not alone, and that her story must not be ignored. This case also serves as a broader reminder that citizens must remain vigilant and vocal when systemic failures threaten justice. If any misconduct occurred during the investigation, it must be uncovered and addressed. Otherwise, similar tragedies could repeat, allowing perpetrators to evade responsibility. For now, the investigation continues, and the community, her family, and people across the UK are united in the hope that Emily Carter will finally receive the justice she deserves. As this chapter closes temporarily, the message remains clear: the fight for truth and accountability is ongoing. Families, friends, and the wider public must continue to raise their voices against injustice. Emily's story is a call to action, a reminder of the fragility of safety and the critical need for law enforcement and institutions to act decisively and compassionately.